All right, guys, welcome to Take Your Base. I'm your host, Lava Arena, brought to you by Four Corner Sports. All right, guys, so we are officially done with the first series after the All-Star break. The Mets ended up facing the Pirates, and man, the Pirates are one of the worst teams in baseball, and the Mets got owned by them. All right, and it looks pretty bad because even though we ended up winning yesterday's game, I mean, what a debacle that we ended up having yesterday. That 6-run first inning. Luis Rojas gets thrown out of the game. Taijuan Walker ends up flipping the ball, into near the dugout of the Pirates because he assumed that the ball rolled foul, and it got ruled as fair, causing a huge argument. And Saturday's game, we ended up losing on a walk-off grand slam. Ridiculous. I mean, Edwin Diaz ended up having a huge meltdown by starting off the inning, hitting a batter, and then I believe he ended up walking somebody. It was a single. And yeah, it was just a bad series. Even though we came out winning one game out of the three. Horrible series. Now we're officially moving on to Cincinnati. But I want to talk to you about is three players that the Mets should definitely look at before the trade deadline. All right. And with Francisco Lindor out for I don't know how long, I didn't see the report. But he said he's going to come back at some point. And with Jacob deGrom on the IL, the Mets definitely need to get their stuff together. All right? Because of the fact that the Mets only got a 2-game lead of the NL East. If this continues, right, then we're going to end up seeing, teams climbing up and then surpassing us. And that's not what you want. The NL East is up for grabs. It is not a good division this year. But I'll take it. If the Mets can come out and, blow by and, win the NL East, even though it's a bad year for the NL East, usually they're the toughest division in baseball, then, fine, But right now, I believe in the standings, it's Philly that's 2 games back, right? Phillies is 2 games back. Atlanta, as expected, is going to be fell back to 4 games. Obviously, with the injury of Ronald Acuna Jr., the torn ACL, obviously that's going to be a huge blow because he's one of their best players. Washington 6 games back. I don't think Washington's going to be able to catch up unless he spark fire within them. And then obviously Miami, as expected, the 5th place team. But they need to do something. The Mets really need to do something, and they need to make a trade. I don't know if they need to go for an additional starter. They need to, booster up the offense by getting an additional bat. Whatever it may be. But here are the 3 people that I personally do feel that the Mets need to go after for them to change their fortunes and go into a winning way. Right? Number 3 is Kris Bryant. Kris Bryant, even though he had a hot start and he is struggling as of late, right? He started off his slash line from opening day to May 31st. He was batting .324. He had an on-base percentage of .406 and a slugging of .611. Okay, from June 1st all the way to July 10th, right? Batting .179, slugging .256, and on base .256 and a slugging of .311. That is horrible, right? Now I don't know if he just doesn't want to be there anymore, if he just wants a fresh start, whatever it may be. The Cubs couldn't not get rid of him at this very moment. They couldn't get rid of him in the beginning of the season because he was on fire. The Cubs were on top of the NL Central, but now that the Cubs are in 3rd place, right? Where they have Cincinnati in front of them and Milwaukee leading the NL Central, right? They lost 4 out of their last 10 games. They're 4-6 out of their last 10 games, losing 6 of their last 10. And it just doesn't look good for the Cubs. The Cubs are going in a downward spiral direction. I personally feel that the Mets should look into getting Kris Bryant. As long as you're not giving away any top prospects, I'm firmly okay with the fact of, hey, you know what? We need help. J.D. Davis, yes, he ended up coming back, but how much longer is he going to be able to sustain you, home run after home run? Because if we could trade JD Davis for Chris Bryant and maybe a couple of prospects, I'm okay with that. Reason being, what's it called? JD Davis is no Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant is a former MVP, a former World Series champion. He knows how to hit under high pressure situations. He has been accustomed to playing in good playoff series. I mean, he's even faced the Mets in 2015. Sure, they got smoked. The Mets ended up sweeping them in the NLCS, but he has that experience, right? JD Davis, on the other hand, good third baseman. Is he somebody that, can be on the championship roster? He sure could, but he's not your first option, okay? And you want somebody like Chris Bryant who can smack home runs, who is versatile, all right? And, if needed, he could play the outfield. So that's somebody that, you know what? It's a good look. It's a good look to have on the team. Second player to look at is Trevor Story. Trevor Story plays for the Colorado Rockies, right? The Rockies are definitely going to move him, right? It's just a matter of which team is going to offer them the best package, and is Trevor Story going to be able to re-sign with that team? And the Mets are financially, they're the best team situational, where they can go after somebody and then, absorb a risk whether or not they're going to sign with the team or not. Trevor Story, you can play him at third, or you can play him at short for the meantime until Lindor comes back. You play him at third, you're expanding his lifespan, playing at the major league level. Not to say that this guy is going to be going down to the minors anytime soon, but shortstop, clearly you need a lot of range. We're very comfortable with Lindor being at shortstop. You see the immense difference of Lindor being at shortstop as opposed to Amer Rosario or Andres Gimenez. If you put somebody like Trevor Story, when you have Lindor back in the lineup, you could have him at third base. Something similar to like what Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez ended up having to experience when A-Rod got traded to the Yankees. You put Trevor Story at third, could be a very good third baseman, and then you have the third base locked up, shortstop locked up. You have McNeil at second base, and you have Pete Alonso at first base. Phenomenal stuff. And then after that, you have James McCann as your catcher up until Francisco Alvarez gets called up from the minors, and then he can resume catching duties. And that wouldn't be a bad fit. I mean, he could smack home runs in Citi Field. What's it called? Trevor Story is not going to be the first option. He's not going to be the primary. He's not going to be the only big bat on that lineup. He's going to be seeing some good pitches. At some point, pitchers are going to have to pitch towards him. Pitchers, when they're facing the Rockies, they know they could pitch around him and move on to the next person. With that Mets lineup, led by Lindor, led by Dominic Smith, Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, you have Michael Conforto. At some point, if you put Trevor Story in that lineup, he's going to get some good pitches, and then he's going to be able to put the balls into the outfield and put them into play. So you could have that, as a person that, hey, put him on the list. Let's see if the Mets can go after him. I imagine they're going to have to, give us some type of prospects, because that's what the Rockies are going to want, so they could build on for the future. As long as they don't give up anybody inside of that top 10 area, where they're top 10 prospects, obviously they're not going to give up Kumar Rocker. They're not going to give up Brett Beatty. They're not going to give up Francisco Alvarez. Maybe they might have to give up, a Mauricio, or definitely not Matt Allen by any means necessary, or Vientes. Maybe one of those two they might have to give up. But if that means that you have to give them up, fine. So be it. We can, live with that. Get somebody like a Trevor Story or a Chris Bryant, and you could have them at third base. Utilizes, your lineup, makes it a more deep lineup, and allows, hitters like a McNeil to get better pitches, right? So they can, have a better opportunity of getting a single, double, triple, whatever, or a home run. And then the top player that I think the Mets should definitely look at is Jose Berrios. Reason why I say Jose Berrios over Trevor Story is because of this, right? The Mets definitely do need some starting pitching. I know they have somebody like a Tyler. Can't pronounce his name. He ended up pitching the other day. What's his name? What's his name? Man, I can't really pronounce his name. Give me 1 second, guys. Nope, that Walker pitched the other day. What's his name? I think it's Tyler McGill. Yeah, Tyler McGill. You have somebody like Tyler McGill who is pitching solid. 5 games he started, right? Has an ERA of 2.63 in 24 innings, 28 strikeouts. His WHIP is 1.21. That is phenomenal stuff for a rookie, right? You put somebody like a Jose Berrios, you have Tyler McGill as your 5th starter, right? So you could stop using Jared Eichhoff. Jared Eichhoff is pitching tonight, and I'm not happy about that because of the fact that even though the Reds don't have a great lineup by any means necessary, you have your Tyler Stevensons in the world, your Tyler Naquans, an old Joey Votto, right? Because he's, Jared Eichhoff giving up like 4 or 5 runs. Tyler McGill, if you have him as your 5th starter, you have Jose Berrios as your 3rd starter, Ty Walker as your, as your 4th or 3rd, whatever. And then you put in DeGrom at 1 and Stroman at 2. You're holding down the spot down for Carrasco and Syndergaard to return back. Excuse me. Wow, that is something heavy. I mean, you can never have enough starting pitching in baseball, and that's something that they teach you early on. You have somebody like a Jose Berrios who was your 2nd starter, right? Or even if you go after a Kenta Maeda, who, all right, I'm not really crazy about. I'd rather have Berrios over Kenta Maeda. But I'm only saying that because of the fact that, look, Maeda is their ace, whatever. But if you have Jose Berrios, who can work with Jeremy Hefner, right? And they could just, tweak a couple of different things. I think Berrios has a higher ceiling than a Maeda. So I'd rather go after him, even though Maeda is the better pitcher as of right now. And you put him in that starting rotation as your 4th starter, right? Or possibly 3rd. I would say more 4th. You have Walker as your 3rd and Stroman as your 2nd. With DeGrom as your number 1 once he comes back from the IL. Look out, guys. I mean, the Mets will take over the NL East. And then after that, that will fix a lot of their problems. Their bullpen won't be getting so worn out. I'm not a big fan of Eichhoff. You could send him back down to AAA. You can have Familia. You can have, what's his name? Aaron Loop. And Edwin Diaz. Just do their thing in the bullpen along with Drew Smith. And yeah, guys. Somebody like a Jose Berrios can definitely change your whole outlook on the pitching rotation and your bullpen because now you can have better arms into the bullpen. Seth Lugo doesn't have to worry about pitching multiple innings. Berrios can eat up innings, give you about 6 or 7, and hand it over to the bullpen. But yeah, guys, that is my recommendations on what the Mets should look at. Chris Bryant number 3, Trevor Story number 2, and Jose Berrios number 1. All right. Tell me, guys, what you think on who the Mets should acquire in the trade deadline and who they should give up. I'm assuming that the Mets are going to have to give up Mauricio and Viences from their prospect list, and maybe somebody like a JD Davis because he's most likely going to have to get added into some type of package. All right. But yeah, guys, that covers everything from Take Your Base. I'm your host, Slava Rihanna. The Mets are facing the Reds tonight. All right, let's see if the Mets are able to beat the Reds with Jared Eichhoff. Until then, guys, I'm your host, Slava Rihanna, and peace, guys. And I'll see you guys next time. Let's go, Mets.